Hey everybody, Alex Brandon here. This time I have remembered not to let Bluetooth ruin the microphone quality because in the car, it's terrible, Mike. Coming out of the phone, it's much better. Why did I say that in a pseudo-British accent? We'll never know, but that's part of my personality. So suck it. Anyway, yes, so I owe everybody here a bit of an update. It's been a while. Sorry about that. I have plenty of questions pending from plenty of people. Thank you. But as a dutiful reminder, whoa, hey there. Some people don't seem to know how to drive around here. Yes, so if you're watching this, thank you for joining me. This is where I answer questions. It could be as the composer of Unreal. It could be as somebody that's writing music for games now or doing audio for games now. There will be some of these that will be from the studio, but a lot of them are going to be from the good old car because that is a opportune time for me to answer questions. Comment below. Say, hey, what sample did you use in, well, that's going to be a tough one to answer. But, you know, if you've got a question about a game that I've written, whether it's Unreal, Deus Ex, Unreal Tournament, Tyrion, heck, even more later games like Wasteland 3, go ahead and ask them here. Yes, I'm happy to answer them. So, lately, there's been a lot of stuff going on between getting my second COVID-19 vaccination. Thank you to Austin Public Health. I know that Williamson County has been doing stuff and the family has been getting their own vaccinations. Hopefully we will be out of this terrible pandemic before too long, but despite what the CDC says, I'm still masking up. There's been family stuff taking place. There's been getting ready to ship Steeltown for Wasteland 3, which is the most polished downloadable content, well, the most polished thing that has been released from inXile yet. It is looking and sounding really, really nice. It's got really awesome content in it, which of course I can't talk about until it's actually out, but it's fun. There's just so many nooks and crannies and things you can do, and compelling story and options and everything that Wasteland is known for. So please go check out Wasteland 3 DLC Steeltown when it comes out in June. Today's question, next is Omega Force. I am 2.5 songs away from all of the basics being done. I have taken to watching behind the scenes Metallica video with Bob Rock, which are funny. In the 80s, I was envious of people that would sit around saying, oh, hey, Anders, what's up, man? Where am I heading today? Oh, I'm heading back home at the moment. It's rainy out here in Georgetown, Texas, but these Metallica videos are very amusing. When I was a kid and a teenager, I was impressed by people that would sit around and say, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, that doesn't fucking do it for me. Once you get back in the studio, we're gonna make this fucking rock. It's gonna, like, I don't know. It's just like it's not the fucking way. Every other word, like today's television shows, has an F-bomb in it. And that was the cool thing to do, to make certain that you were a serious professional. You just had to say fucking this and fucking that. And it gave me a little more insight into the band. And from day one, I had been told and believed that they weren't into coke and drugs and all that stuff. Alcohol, yes, but that Master of Puppets actually was about drugs. I learned that it was about just addiction of all forms, according to good old James Hetfield. Point being, it's kind of inspirational. I'm a fan of the band. I like a lot of their stuff. And so I started watching some studio stuff when I was making Omega Force, and it's kind of inspirational. Now on to the question. Today's question is from Brandon Hale. Brandon is a fan of mine that has attended several MagFests. I've always appreciated his questions, and he asks a good one today. The question is, how do we move game? And I'm going into Paul McGowan's voice from PS Audio. Go and check out PS Audio, Ask Paul, and you'll hear that style. how do we move game music forward? A lot of games have the baggage of this needs to sound like a fantasy game, and therefore we use an orchestra. This needs to sound like a chiptune game, so we need to make it sound like a Nintendo game. A lot of games will derive their inspiration, what they need to sound like from other games or even films. How do we move past this? And this is, I think, the question creatively about making music for games or movies or anything, to be honest. We are in a cycle of derivative content that is fueled by access to free and cheap tools that make music easy to create. Because of this easy creation with the tools, combined with the stuff that, well, mainly because of the easy creation, it means that we fall victim to not experimenting or not being forced into a place by the limitations of the technology. Back in the day, if you had only so many registers and bits and bytes to work with and pieces of hardware that you had to design and build yourself, sure, you had to make the only thing that you could. And what came out was completely brand new, or at least it was new enough, being done in the arcades, being done on consoles. You know, on one hand, in the audience that then would grow into a much more mainstream audience, you had people that really loved it. And on the other, you had people that were thinking, well, I can't take it seriously as music. And now it's all blended together. Anything is possible for a minimum amount of effort. And therefore, we keep making the same stuff because it scratches that dopamine itch for creativity. The way to get out of this is to have producers, everyone along the production line, from producers to directors to people that fund the games. I just went gray. Okay, whew. Hopefully I'm not going to run out of juice here. Finally, I make a video from Chi-Town. Hopefully I'm pronouncing something right here. The internet in Georgetown sucks. I'm using AT&T. It sucks. We have Suddenlink. It sucks. Like everything about the internet. I'm just going to pull over here. Hopefully it'll give me a decent signal. It's cloudy. When there's clouds, it's kind of bad. Anyway, here's the answer to the question. This is important. Everyone in the production chain, from directors to people that fund games to producers, and it's not just composers. Composers are the people that you fans reach out to. You need to reach out to the directors and the producers and say, listen, we want more original content in our games. We want something really new. We want you to not be afraid to experiment. Some examples of this do exist, like Dead Space by Jason Graves. He said, I don't want to just do something traditionally scary. I want to use texture with the instruments and try people doing things with their instruments they've never done before. And people had done that in film for quite some time, but specifically for games, I think that was fairly new at the time. Could be wrong. Correct me in the comments. What else am I thinking about? Even in Wasteland, we tiptoe into certain areas, or we actually jumped, and it wasn't my idea. The use of licensed music. I thought that music with lyrics would be terrible. People are loving it. And so therefore that's a new direction that's been taken. So what I did was I piggybacked on top of that idea to try to experiment with different ideas of how do we blend a score with licensed music, Mark Morgan plus the stuff that you hear with bands, right? So in addition to that, there's things that can be tried in terms of interactivity, making it even more interactive, and yes, pouring more money into people that can be dedicated to integrating the score. Usually that's only in a AAA title, right? What does it mean for indie games? It means that you write less music, but you integrate it more tightly and randomly and in such a way that you split the work, even if it's one person. And you might pay him to write, let's do 20 minutes of music. No. Let's do 5 minutes of content. But this much time gets spent on scripting and experimenting and having it trigger in all these different places and creating functions and behaviors that will respond to the player in different ways, right? So there's all these ideas that need to be embraced by the game development community. As I said, all the way down the line, we need to break out of the orchestral stars in our eyes, sleeping with Britney, as George Sanger puts it, going and recording with an orchestra, and figure out what's going to be the next thing. And honestly, the next thing is not what's come before, which is the limitations of the technology. It's going to be utilizing the tools we have, using our imaginations. And there's going to be a unique story for every project that's going to have this different sound to it. And we're already seeing some stuff like that. In films, look at Arrival. I forget the name of the guy. I think he died. It's very tragic. And some of the stuff that Hans Zimmer is doing is textural soundtracks, things that don't involve themes. I tell people a lot, oh, we need more John Williams. That's always not always, that's a good thing quite a bit of the time. But using textures is a direction that can create some very, very powerful film scores. And the same goes for games. So, Brandon, thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. Everyone, ask more questions in the comments, and I'll talk to you later.